We are ranked among the worst in saving in the world. When we read this verse in Luke chapter 14, we say, yes, it would be very foolish to begin building something without first calculating the cost. However, when we look at our lives, this is the way that 8 out of 10 of us are living every week, every month, paycheck to paycheck. How are we going to survive? God calls us, and he holds us accountable for what he has entrusted us with. And in my experience, many of us have no idea where our money goes. People that live paycheck to paycheck, and I've been guilty of this. Like I always say, whenever I'm preaching, I'm not just preaching to y'all, I'm more preaching to myself because I have been guilty of this. I have no idea where the money goes. I pay the bills and I'm like, okay, how much more do I have left? Yes, there's still money in the bank. I'm going to go spend it. Finally, I can go buy this or I can go buy that. And I have no idea where the money goes. And when I go to do my taxes at the end of the year and they give me the statement that says how much I've earned, and I'm like, I've earned that much money and I have nothing in the bank to show for it? Oh, how in the world have I let this happen? And I hope I'm not the only person that's felt that way before. But as we turn to God's word, we see in Proverbs chapter 21, verse 20 says, the wise store up choice food and olive oil, but fools gulp theirs down. I have been a fool. And maybe some of you can relate. We have been foolish. We've just been deceived by the enemy. We think this is normal because we see so many other people doing it. And we think this is the way we need to live life. And Jonathan, I'm just trusting God will provide my next paycheck. Jonathan, I'm just trusting that God will just provide my next paycheck. I don't know what's going to happen in the future. I'm not going to plan for that. I'm going to spend everything I have today so that God will bless me tomorrow. And every day I'll just live by my faith and pray that God provides something for me, right? We need to have a plan. We need to create a plan, and our plan, according to many experts and many people who have done studies on what it takes to be financially secure, is first, we need to create a plan, and that is called a budget. And in your budget, it needs to be organized in this order. It needs to be organized in give. Giving needs to be the top budget line, right? Then save. Then pay your bills. Then buy stuff. That's the order of the way things need to go. But the reality is many of us first pay bills, then buy stuff. Then we see what we have left over to go save. And then maybe we'll give. Maybe we'll give to somebody in need. Maybe we'll tithe. Maybe we'll do what we can to help somebody after I've done everything I can for myself. But studies have proven and shown that the way to build wealth and the way to actually have financial peace is to first give, then save, then pay bills, then buy stuff. So, can I have you guys repeat this with me? First, give. Then save. Then pay bills. Then buy stuff. That's the order we need to organize our financial house. We need to save because tomorrow matters. I'm going to give you 3 reasons here this morning about why we need to save. and why we need to break the mindset that we just need to spend everything we have and not worry about it until we get paid again. The first reason is based on Proverbs 21:5 that says, the plans of the diligent lead to profit as surely as haste leads to poverty. The first reason we need to save is because there are emergencies that come up in life. Unexpected events will come up in life, and they will require money. And if you're not prepared for it, it's going to become a curse for you. The Bible never calls debt a sin, but what the Bible calls debt is a curse. It's not a blessing to be in debt. We enslave ourselves. If 8 out of the 10 of us live paycheck to paycheck, then we're living in haste. Spending everything we have is haste. If you don't understand what haste is, it's spending everything you have. Oh, I got to go buy this. I got to go buy that. Man, I'm going to go out. I'm going to go do this. I'm going to go hang out with my friends. We're going to go, man, I want to go indoor skydiving. You know, I want to go real skydiving. I want to go do this and go do that. And we put things as a priority over preparing for tomorrow. So why do we need to save for emergencies? Because we need to be diligent in knowing that unexpected expenses will happen. The appliance will break. Your refrigerator will stop running. Somebody's going to prank call you, and they're going to say, is your refrigerator running? And you're going to go check, and it's going to be broken. You're going to be like, no. And then it's going to ruin their prank. The car will need repairs at some point. You will get sick at some point. And it's not going to be planned like, okay, I'm going to plan to get sick right around this day so that way I know I'll have the money for it. Jobs will end. Projects come to an end. Income will vary. Things will change. So why do we need to save? Because we need to have money set aside for emergencies. The plans of the diligent lead to profit as surely as haste leads to poverty. We need to prevent these emergencies from further enslaving us because the borrower is, thank you, Tabitha. The borrower is slave to the lender. So what do we need to do? How can we prepare for this, Jonathan? What are you saying? Well, number one is plan on it happening. Plan on emergencies happening. Who here has ever had an unexpected financial event happen? Anybody? Yeah, if you've been working for any time, and if you've been alive for any time, suddenly something happens you were not expecting, and you have to come up with some money, and you don't know how you're going to do it. You know, I'm such a fool. I'm going to talk about myself here for a second. I'm such a fool. There's one thing that I knew was going to happen, and I did nothing to prepare for it. We have a car, and on that car there's 4 round things that are attached to rims called tires. And tires wear down. You know, my tires don't suddenly have no tread. I didn't drive on one road that stripped away all the tread on my tires. They wear out little by little over time. And dumb me, I knew they were wearing down, and I looked at my wife and said, man, we're going to need to buy tires pretty soon. Yeah, we probably are, huh? Yeah. Oh, well, let's keep spending money. Let's keep doing things that are unnecessary. Let's not prepare for this event that is coming. I can see it coming every day. Whenever I walk around the car, I see the tread getting lower and lower and lower. And it doesn't happen at once. It was slowly, over time, over 50,000 miles. It's like 2.5 years of driving for us. Like it didn't just happen. Like, oh my God, tires wore out. So what did I do? I go to NTB. Do you guys finance tires? Yes, we do. Woohoo! let me further enslave myself because I didn't know tires were going to wear out. We have to plan on things happening. I'm going to give you a couple pieces of advice here. If you don't currently save, if you are not planning on things happening in life, let me urge you, there's some baby steps you can take. Number one, baby step number one you can take is put $1,000 aside. Save it. Put it in the bank. Put it in your dresser. Put it under your pillow. I don't care what you do, but make sure you have $1,000 set aside for the unknown. Because what's going to happen is when you have that $1,000 set aside, stuff's going to stop happening. For whatever reason, when you're prepared for something, things stop happening. It's when you're not prepared for it that they begin to happen to you, right? You want to get $1,000 saved up as quick as you can. So whenever we refer to what we've learned these past 4 weeks, less is more. That means cut stuff out of your budget so you can save $1,000. So when unexpected events happen, you can take care of it. And you can just pay for it. You won't have to be stressed about it. And you won't have to get further into debt. Then your next goal should be to get out of debt. Everything except your house. Get out of debt. And once you get out of debt, you want to get 3 to 6 months of money into savings. 3 to 6 months of your expenses into savings. And that equals, for the average family in America, about 10 to 15 grand set aside in savings. I'm not talking about retirement money. I'm not talking about your 401k. I'm talking about just a pile of money in savings to cover the emergencies that you know will come up in life. And if you don't already have $1,000 set aside in savings as a starter emergency fund, let that be your first focus. Say, God, I want to honor you. I need to be prepared. I want to be diligent what you have. I don't want to be a foolish person who leads himself into poverty. So God, I'm going to do this. Let me get money set aside. The second reason why we need to save is for purchases. I just gave you the example of my tire buying experience. Do you know what I actually considered? Because I didn't want to pay for new tires. I actually considered going and trading the car in and getting a new car and getting further in debt because I didn't want to buy tires. And y'all laugh because I'm sure some of you have done the same thing. Like, man, I don't want to pay for tires. They're so expensive. How much would it cost me to get into another car? Let me do that instead. Dork, what am I doing? Proverbs 14, verse 29 says, he who is slow to wrath has great understanding, but he who is impulsive exalts folly. You know where we get the word fool from? This word, folly. Deck the halls with boughs of folly. Right? It's Christmas season. It's not what the song says. It says holly. But some of us do it with folly. We are foolish because we are impulsive. Our generation has not lived without a microwave in our kitchen. My generation has always had instant access to food. Man, I can go get me a cup of ramen noodles, get some water, throw it in the microwave, and in about 5 to 7 minutes, I have me a meal. Maruchan. Ramen noodles. And so what this has created subconsciously is a desire to have things now. We call ourselves a microwave generation because I want things now. I don't want to wait for them. So what people in my generation have done is whenever we grow up and we get out of mom and dad's house, we want what mom and dad have now. Even though it took mom and dad 20, 30 years to get to where they're at, I want it now. I want the new car now. I want the house now. I need a 4K TV now. The Xbox One X is a necessity and I need it now. I need a DJI Mavic drone because if I don't have one, then I can't take pictures of stuff from the air. I need it now. I don't want to wait. But he who is impulsive exalts folly. We need to set aside money diligently for purchases. Because we're trying to avoid the entrapment of the enemy of getting into debt to get things that we want now. We need to set money aside. We need to save and plan for purchases. It's called a sink fund. So let me give you an example. Who here believes that or would like to have new furniture in your living room? Anybody here? New furniture in your living room. Okay, a lot of y'all are lying to me right now. Because as soon as you watch HGTV or you get online and you see Chip and Joanna do this house, you're like, oh my God, I want my house to look like that. I'm tired of my couch is so ugly. I need a new one. I need it to look like Chip and Joanna did it, right? And so we go to the store and they have the Chip and Joanna section. And your house can look exactly like the ones on TV for $4,000. And guess what? You can have it now. 90 days, same as cash financing. You can have it now. It can be yours. And you know what? You get it now, and you only have to pay $211 for the next 2 years. Oh my God, I can do that. And my house will look like Chip and Joanna did it. So if you get $4,000 worth of furniture and you put it on credit, typical store credit is about 24% interest a year. So let's say in 2 years, you can have a $4,000 living room furniture set at $211 a month for 2 years. That equals a total of $5,064. So the $4,000 furniture set didn't cost you $4,000. It cost you $5,064. So you paid an extra $1,064 because you need it now. Ugh. That's not fun. What would we call one of those people? But he who is impulsive exalts folly. You're a fool. I'm a fool. I have been foolish because I did this. I'm preaching to myself here. Man, Ashley Furniture, she knew what she was doing. I walked into that store and I was like, God, that would look good in my living room. I need it now. If you would have saved the exact same $211 you said you could afford to have your house look like that, and you would have saved the money for 18 months, a year and a half, 6 months sooner than what it took to pay it off, you would have $3,800. Would you be able to walk into a furniture store with $3,800 and buy the exact same living room set? You think the furniture store will negotiate $200 down for you? Absolutely. Absolutely. So why do we let impulses get the best of us in thinking that we need it now? There's a quote that Dave Ramsey has, and he says, the definition of maturity is learning to delay pleasure. Children do what feels good. Adults devise a plan and follow it. Children do what feels good. Adults devise a plan and follow it. Some of us need to look in the mirror and tell ourselves, grow up. I need to grow up. 1 Corinthians chapter 13, verse 11 says, when I was a child, I spoke as a child. I understood as a child. I thought as a child. But when I became a man, I put childish things behind me. But when I became a man, I put childish things behind me. You know, I feel like in my life, the times that I have said, okay, I'm no longer going to be a child, I'm now becoming a man, was one, whenever I was 19 years old, I decided I was going to go to college, and I got out of mom and dad's house, and I went off to school. And in school, I met Tabitha, and part of becoming a man was, well, I need to be able to provide for my family, so let me finish school so that I can get a good job and marry this girl, convince her to marry me, because no woman this beautiful has ever talked to me before, and I better do everything to hold on to her. So I needed to graduate school, and I felt like, well, I'm becoming a man. I'm taking responsibility. I'm putting priorities in place. I'm going to finish school. So I get my bachelor's degree. I graduate. Then I feel like I'm becoming a man when I get out and get my first real job that pays more than Blockbuster used to pay. My first job was Blockbuster. The place no longer exists, which is a shame. But it was an awesome job. 5 free rentals a week, man. It's an awesome perk. But I got a real job finally. I'm getting paid. Oh, I feel like a man. You know what? I'm going to go buy my first car. So me and Tabitha go and we buy our first car. Man, I feel like a man. If we're in our first apartment, man, I feel like a man. All these events in life, man, I feel like a man. But the reality is there's a 4-year-old Jonathan still inside screaming, I want that thing. And if you knew Jonathan whenever he was a kid, he would be the kid in the cereal aisle screaming, I want Captain Crunch, I want Captain Crunch, well, really for me it was Cinnamon Toast Crunch. I want Cinnamon Toast Crunch, I want Cinnamon Toast Crunch. The real struggle for Jonathan as a child was the Hot Wheels aisle at Walmart. So like the place that's Imperion or Dish Network right now, that used to be Walmart for me whenever I was a kid, okay? And whenever I would go to Walmart, I would just straight to the back left part of the store because that's where the toy section was. And about the third from the last aisle of the rows that went like this instead of like this, third to left one was the Hot Wheels aisle. And on the Hot Wheels aisle, they had a section to the right. I remember this, okay? It's ingrained in my mind. On the right, they had Hot Wheels. On the left, they had Matchbox. And the thing about Hot Wheels and Matchbox was one was 78 cents for a car. The other one was 77 cents for a car. The Hot Wheels ones were better. They were 78 cents. That was high-class toys. Matchbox was the lower end, okay? That was only 77 cents. That's what the poor kids bought. Dork. And I would go in there and I would say, Mom, it's only 77 cents for a car. And my mom would be like, Mijo, no, we can't get it right now. Mijo, no, you can't get it right now. But Mom, it's only 77 cents. Write a check for it. I know you can write a check for it. It's only 77 cents. And I would argue and plead and say, I want it, I want it, I want it. And the reality is that version of Jonathan still exists sometimes inside me when I see stuff I want. And I have to fight this inner Jonathan child that wants stuff now. It's only 77 cents. They had the drone on sale at Black Friday. I need it. I have to look Jonathan in the mirror and tell him, grow up. When you were a child, you thought as a child. You understood as a child. You spoke as a child. But now you're a man. Put the childish ways behind you. And when I say man, I'm talking to women as well, okay? It does not just refer to the male species. It refers to women as well. All of us who are adults, put childish things behind you. Now, if you're a kid and you're making money, cool, you're a kid. Go spend the money on the stuff you want. Devise a plan that works and follow it. Create a sinking fund for the purchases you want to have. I'm not telling you don't ever buy anything, but I'm saying don't become a slave to the lender because you want it now. Create a plan. Follow it. The third reason why we need to save and the third reason why we need to stop acting like kids in our finances is because we need to leave a legacy. The third reason why I need to correct my behavior is because I want to leave a legacy to my kids and to my kids' kids and to the generations behind them. I don't want to be the person that put our family further back because of his ignorant decisions and his childlike behavior. Proverbs 13:22 says, a good person leaves an inheritance for their children's children. A good person leaves an inheritance for their children's children. My desire is that my kids will know the goodness of God, not only spiritually and mentally, but physically as well. Because I feel like my kids know that I love God. We read Bible stories for their bedtime stories a lot of times. We know the songs. We sing them songs. The music that we play in the car, on the radio is usually Christian, except for whenever I'm listening to sports talk or Dave Ramsey, because my son says, not Dave Ramsey again. And then he got into his Uncle Irving's car and he says, Dave Ramsey again. But my kids know, and I pray that they continue to know that I fear God, I love God, I try to live my life as a servant of God. I want to follow God, I want to follow his ways, and I want to leave that legacy to them. And then I want to leave them the legacy of a Christian mindset and how we need to be diligent, how we need to plan, and how education is important. We need to love God with all our heart, mind, soul, and strength. And in loving God with your mind, school is important. So I want my kids to understand that education is important so that they can provide. I want them to be wise with their decisions. But the last thing I would want to do in leaving a legacy is to leave a legacy of debt behind to my kids. I want to leave a blessing to them. I want to leave a legacy of serving God, working hard, and being a blessing to others. And I can't do that if I keep acting like a child. I want them to have a full inheritance. I want to take what my grandparents have started and what my parents have started and keep it going forward. My dad grew up in a very poor part of Venezuela, in Caracas. And I asked him, Dad, if we ever go back to Venezuela, would you take me to your neighborhood where you grew up? He said, no, son, it's too dangerous. So what he's done is he's changed that course for our family. Came here to the U.S., got a better life for himself. And I don't want that to stop with me. I want that to carry forward to my kids and my kids' kids and my kids' kids' kids. And I want that to be affected throughout all the generations. I'm not going to just get up one day and make a declaration and say, I want to leave a legacy to my kids, and it's going to just happen right there because I made a declaration, right? What it's going to take is the mindset of a marathon runner. It can't be a sprint. I can't live like a child all the way till I'm 62, and then whenever it comes time for me to get ready for retirement and getting ready for things from the legacy I'm going to leave behind, suddenly declare, well, now I'm going to leave a legacy for my kids. And poof, it happens. It's going to take time. It's going to take sacrifice. It's going to take discipline. And it's going to take consistency. I'm going to have to do it little by little. It will take several small decisions that are consistent with each other to get to a place where I can leave a lasting legacy to my family. I read this verse last week, and I'm going to read it again. Hebrews chapter 12, verse 11 says, "No discipline seems pleasant at the time, but painful. Later on, however, it produces a harvest of righteousness and peace for those who have been trained by it." I want to produce a harvest of righteousness and peace for my family. And what it's going to do, what is required to get there is discipline. And not just easy discipline, painful discipline. So I have to save on a consistent basis because it's not only going to affect me and my wife, it's going to affect the generations behind us. And let me just clarify something here. I'm not talking about I need to get rich to leave a legacy. But what I'm talking about is I need to be able to manage what God has entrusted me with so I can set the example and set the tone for my kids and the generations behind them. Right now, my legacy that I would leave behind them would only be a spiritual and mental legacy. It would not be a physical one. They would not inherit anything. In order for them to break even, they would have to sell the house. And I've been fortunate in that God, through my ignorance, still blessed me, because that's what God does. So when we bought our house, we bought it when the market was super low and the value has gone up a lot, and I've got a lot of equity in my house right now. But that equity that I have built up in my house is offset by the amount of debt that I currently have. So in order for my kids to just break even, they would have to sell that house. I'm not leaving a legacy to them. The net gain is zero. All my kids would see is a huge pile of debt from dad and a bunch of stuff that will be obsolete in 10 years. There may be a DJI Mavic drone for them, and in 10 years, that's going to be old school, old hat, retro. They may have a 4K TV. Wow. Thanks, Dad. I already had my own. You may have a nice heart of the hide Rawlings baseball glove made out of some premium leather. Wow, Dad. Thanks. I want to save so I can leave a complete legacy to my children and their children and all the generations that follow. What it's going to require of me, though, is to sacrifice and say no. But it's all for a purpose. If you'll stand with me this morning. Look to your neighbor and tell them tomorrow matters. Look to your other neighbor and tell them tomorrow matters. We need to be wise. We need to be diligent in our plans. We need to grow up and stop acting as children in the way that we handle our finances, in the way that we are in relationships, in the way that we treat other people, in the way that we allow God to use us. We need to grow up. Because tomorrow matters. God, this morning, God, I come to you